The old ship floated at the edge of Earth's defense fleet. The USS Underdog was small compared to the newer vessels. Its hull had patches and repairs from years of service. Paint peeled off in some spots. The engines made strange noises that worried visiting officials. No one expected much from this ship anymore. Captain Abigail Wright stood on the bridge looking out at the stars. She was 42 years old with short brown hair that had started showing gray. Her uniform was perfectly clean and pressed, even though nobody important ever visited the Underdog anymore. "Another message from Fleet Command," said Lieutenant Daniel Harris. He was young with dark skin and serious eyes. He handed her a small screen with the message. Abigail read it quickly and sighed. "They want us to stay back during the meeting with the aliens." "Of course they do," Daniel said. "Heaven forbid anyone sees the Underdog near the important ships." Abigail handed back the screen. Around her, the bridge crew worked quietly. They were good people who had ended up on a ship nobody wanted. Some had made mistakes in their careers. Others had refused to play politics. A few, like Abigail, had made powerful enemies. "How far are we from the meeting point?" she asked. "About 6 hours, Captain," replied Olivia Martinez from the navigation station. Her fingers moved across the screen, adjusting their course slightly. "We'll arrive just before the Nix ships get there." The Nix Collective was an alien civilization that had contacted Earth 3 months ago. This would be the first face-to-face meeting between humans and the Nix. Everyone was nervous. The Nix had better technology than humans. Their ships were faster, their weapons were stronger, but they had offered peace and trade. "Any new information about our guests?" Abigail asked. Gregory Powell, the tactical officer, shook his head. "Nothing we don't already know. They're sending 7 ships. Their main ship is twice the size of our biggest battleship. And we're supposed to just smile and hope they're friendly," Daniel said quietly. Abigail nodded. She had seen the classified reports. The Nix had met 3 other alien species before finding humans. All 3 now worked for the Nix. Nobody knew if they had joined willingly or been conquered. "Captain, can I speak with you?" a voice called from the doorway. Samuel Ellis stood there wiping his hands on a rag. He was the chief engineer, older than most of the crew, with wild gray hair and a beard that never seemed properly trimmed. His uniform was always stained with grease and engine fluid. "Of course, Chief, my office." They walked to the small room next to the bridge. When the door closed, Samuel pulled out a small device and turned it on. "Signal blocker," he explained. "Just in case," Abigail raised an eyebrow. "Is that necessary?" "Maybe. I wanted to tell you that we're ready." "Ready for what exactly?" Samuel smiled. His eyes gleamed with excitement. "Ready to show what this ship can really do if needed." For 5 years, Samuel Ellis had been secretly upgrading the Underdog. Nobody at Fleet Command knew. They never bothered to check the old ship carefully. They just sent it outdated parts and expected it to eventually break down completely. But Samuel was a genius. He had taken those parts and changed them. Improved them. Combined them in ways nobody had thought of before. "The shield system is functioning at full capacity," he said. "It's unlike anything in the fleet. It can adapt to different types of attacks in real time. And the power core, stable. It's producing 3 times the energy of a standard ship, this size, but it's completely hidden from normal scans. It looks like we're running on fumes just like they expect." Abigail sat down at her desk. "What about weapons?" "That's the best part." Samuel pulled up a diagram on her screen. "The metamaterial resonance cannon is installed and ready. It's disguised as part of the front hull section. Nobody would recognize it unless they knew exactly what to look for." "And it works?" Samuel hesitated. "In tests, yes, but we've never had a chance to try it against an actual target." "Let's hope we never need to," Abigail said. But deep down, she had doubts about the upcoming meeting. Why had the Nix sought out Earth? Why were they so interested in humans when they already had 3 other species working for them? "Keep everything quiet," she told Samuel. "No one mentions our upgrades to anyone outside this ship." Samuel nodded. "The crew knows. They're proud of what we've built here, but they also know to keep their mouths shut. Good. If the meeting goes well, maybe we never need to reveal what the underdog can do. After Samuel left, Abigail stayed in her office. She pulled up the files on the Knicks again. Their technology was impressive. Their ships moved faster than should be possible. Their weapons could destroy an asteroid with a single shot. But there was something about their behavior that bothered her. In every communication, they were polite but distant. They shared information about their culture and technology, but it always felt carefully selected, like they were showing humans only what they wanted them to see. Abigail's personal tablet beeped. A message from her old friend, Captain Frank Donnelly of the USS Constitution, one of the 5 battleships that would escort the diplomatic vessel. Abby, wish you were joining us up close tomorrow. These aliens give me the creeps. Something feels off. Keep your eyes open even from the back row. She typed back. Always do. Be careful, Frank. 5 hours later, the underdog took its position at the edge of the designated meeting area. Far ahead, Abigail could see the 5 human battleships arranged in formation. The diplomatic vessel, carrying ambassadors and scientists, waited in the center. Nick's ship's approaching, announced Olivia. They'll be here in 20 minutes. Abigail watched the radar screen. 7 dots appeared, moving with perfect precision. The aliens had arrived exactly on time, not a second early or late. All stations, stay alert, she ordered. I know we're just here to watch, but I want everyone ready. The crew nodded. They had served together long enough to understand what she wasn't saying. Be ready for trouble. As the Knicks ships came into visual range, even Abigail had to admit they were beautiful, sleek, silver vessels that seemed to glow against the blackness of space. Their movements were fluid, like dancers rather than massive warships. They're scanning us, Gregory reported from Tactical. He sounded amused. Probably wondering why we brought such an old ship. Let them wonder, Abigail replied. Little did the Knicks know that the ship they were dismissing as insignificant contained technology that might surprise them. The underdog waited quietly at the edge of history, its true nature hidden beneath a weathered exterior. The meeting between humanity and the Knicks Collective was about to begin, and Abigail Wright couldn't shake the feeling that nothing would ever be the same again. The meeting between humans and the Knicks had been going on for 3 hours. On the bridge of the USS Underdog, Captain Abigail Wright watched the video feed from the diplomatic vessel. The Knicks looked almost human, but their skin had a bluish tint, and their eyes were larger. They spoke perfect English in voices that sounded too smooth. They learned our language very quickly, said Daniel Harris. Too quickly, if you ask me. Abigail nodded. Something felt wrong about this whole situation. The Knicks representatives smiled and made promises of friendship and shared technology. But their eyes never smiled. Any unusual readings from their ships? She asked. Gregory Powell checked his screens. Nothing obvious. Their shields are up, but that's normal for first contact situations. What about unusual scans? Are they looking at anything specific? Olivia Martinez frowned at her console. They're running deep scans of Earth's defense satellites. Fleet Command authorized it as a show of good faith. Abigail's stomach tightened. Why would peaceful visitors need to know so much about Earth's defenses? Chief Ellis to the bridge, she called over the intercom. Samuel arrived quickly, wiping grease from his hands as usual. Captain, what can you tell me about those Knicks ships? Anything your special sensors are picking up? Samuel moved to a side console that looked ordinary, but contained systems he had built himself. Their power readings are interesting. They're using much more energy than needed for just sitting there, like they're keeping something big on standby. Weapons? Abigail asked quietly. Could be, can't tell for sure. Samuel adjusted some settings. But I'm also detecting strange communications between their ships. Very short bursts, heavily encrypted. Abigail watched the main screen. The diplomatic meeting continued with smiles and handshakes. Admiral Chen, Earth's representative, was signing some kind of preliminary agreement. Put me through to Admiral. Chen's security team, Abigail ordered. A young security officer appeared on a small side screen. Captain Wright, how can I help you? This is just a precaution, but tell the Admiral that we're detecting unusual power readings and communications from the Nix fleet. The officer looked uncomfortable. Ma'am, we've been instructed not to interrupt with technical concerns. The diplomatic process is at a critical stage. This could be important. Just pass it along. I'll try to find an appropriate moment, Captain. The officer disconnected. Daniel looked at Abigail. They're not going to tell him, are they? Probably not. Abigail stood up and paced the small bridge. What are we missing here? Why would the Nix want to— Captain! Olivia's voice was suddenly sharp. Energy spike from the Nix flagship. Massive power buildup. All stations, red alert, Abigail ordered. Samuel, bring our real shields online now. The lights on the bridge dimmed as hidden systems came to life. On the main screen, they watched in horror as the Nix flagship suddenly fired a bright beam of energy directly at the human diplomatic vessel. They're attacking, Gregory shouted. The diplomatic ship's shields are failing. The beam cut through the diplomatic vessel like it was made of paper. 2 human battleships moved to defend, only to be hit by similar beams from other Nix ships. This isn't a battle, Daniel said in shock. It's an execution. Abigail grabbed the communication controls. To all Earth vessels, this is Captain Wright of the USS Underdog. The Nix are hostile. Repeat, the Nix are hostile. Raise shields and return fire. But it was already too late for most of the fleet. 3 of the 5 battleships were severely damaged. The diplomatic vessel was breaking apart. Only the Constitution and the Defiant were still firing back, but their weapons seemed to have little effect on the Nix shields. Captain, we're being hailed by Captain Donnelly on the Constitution, Olivia reported. Frank Donnelly's face appeared on screen. His bridge was filled with smoke and blood ran from a cut on his forehead. Abby, we're taking heavy damage. Their shields are too strong and they've got some kind of energy weapon we've never seen before. Frank, get your ship out of there. Fall back to Earth, warn them. Too late for that, he coughed. Our engines are hit, we can't— The screen went black. A moment later, they watched as the Constitution exploded in a ball of fire and debris. The Defiant is retreating, Gregory reported. But 3 Nix ships are pursuing. Abigail made a decision. Helm, take us in, full speed. Olivia looked surprised. Captain, Fleet Command ordered us to stay back. Fleet Command is gone. And if we don't do something, Earth is next. Abigail turned to Samuel. Chief, is the resonance cannon ready? Yes, but we've never tested it against actual targets. Today's the day. Abigail addressed the whole bridge. Listen carefully. Our ship may look like junk, but thanks to Chief Ellis, we're actually the most advanced vessel in the fleet. The Nix don't know that. They'll ignore us until it's too late. The crew nodded, fear in their eyes, but determination too. Our plan is simple, Abigail continued. We get between the Nix and the Defiant. We take their fire, which our adaptive shields should handle. Then we hit back with the resonance cannon. And if the shields don't hold, Daniel asked, then it was nice serving with all of you. Abigail straightened her uniform. Helm, maximum speed. Tactical, prepare the resonance cannon. Communications, send a message to Earth with everything we know about the Nix attack. The Underdog's engines roared to life with power that should have been impossible for a ship its size. It shot forward, quickly closing the distance to the battle. The crew worked with focused intensity, knowing that Earth's survival might depend on what happened in the next few minutes. 1 minute to intercept, Olivia announced. On the screen, they could see the Defiant struggling to escape as the Nix ships fired again and again. Its shields were failing, hull breaches visible along its side. The Nix have noticed us, Gregory said. 1 ship is breaking off to intercept. Good, Abigail said. Let them come. The Nix vessel approached rapidly. It was sleek and deadly, bristling with weapons. Compared to the patched-up Underdog, it looked like a shark approaching a wounded fish. They're scanning us, Samuel reported. Standard scans only. They're not looking deep enough to see our modifications. They're firing, Gregory shouted. A beam of bright energy shot from the Nix ship directly at the Underdog. Everyone on the bridge tensed, waiting for impact. The beam hit the Underdog's shields and spread across them like water on glass, dissipating without causing damage. Shields holding at 92%, Samuel reported, his voice filled with relief and pride. The adaptive system is working. It's analyzing their weapon frequencies and adjusting in real time. The Nix ship fired again with the same result. They look confused, Daniel said, watching the enemy ship's movements. They expected us to explode. Abigail smiled grimly. Let's really confuse them. Gregory, target their weapons array with a low-power shot from our conventional guns. The underdog fired what looked like a standard human weapon. It hit the Nix ship's shields and surprisingly passed through to strike the hull. Direct hit, Gregory exclaimed. Their shields didn't stop it, Samuel laughed, because we modified our weapons to match the frequency gap in their shield modulation. They never expected anyone to figure that out. Now they'll take us seriously, Abigail said. Prepare the resonance cannon. Let's show them what this old ship can really do. The bridge of the USS Underdog was silent as everyone watched the Nix ship approach again. The alien vessel was 3 times their size, its sleek hull gleaming against the darkness of space. It was joined by a second Nix ship, both of them circling, the small human vessel like wolves around prey. They're trying to decide what we are, Samuel Ellis said, watching the sensor readings. Our first shot confused them. Good, Abigail replied. Confusion buys us time. How's the resonance cannon? Ready to fire, but we only get 1 shot before it needs to recharge. Abigail nodded. We need to make it count then. On the main screen, they could see the Defiant, still trying to escape with 1 Nix ship in pursuit. The human battleship was badly damaged, trailing debris and venting atmosphere. The Defiant won't make it much longer, Gregory reported. Their engines are failing. Abigail made her decision. We need to help them first. Olivia, plot an intercept course between the Defiant and that Nix ship. Samuel, can we use the resonance cannon at that distance? Yes, but it'll be at reduced power. Still should be enough to hurt them. Do it. Abigail turned to Daniel. Send a message to the Defiant. Tell them to prepare for sudden acceleration. The Underdog shot forward, its engines pushing to maximum power. The 2 Nix ships that had been circling immediately gave chase. They're firing again, Gregory called out. Multiple energy beams struck the Underdog's shields. The bridge lights flickered, and the ship shuddered. Shields at 78%, Samuel reported. Still holding, but they're hitting us with everything now. Abigail gripped the arms of her chair. They're not laughing at us anymore. The Underdog raced toward the Defiant, closing the distance rapidly. The pursuing Nix ships fired continuously, their weapons growing more intense with each shot. They're adapting, Samuel warned. Trying different frequencies to get through our shields. And our shields are adapting back? Abigail asked. So far, yes, but they have more power. It's only a matter of time. The Underdog reached the Defiant just as the Nix ship was preparing to fire what would have been a killing blow. We're in position, Olivia announced, directly between the Defiant and the Nix ship. Gregory, target the resonance cannon. Target locked. Gregory's fingers flew across his console. Fire! The front section of the Underdog transformed. Panels slid aside, revealing a crystalline structure that glowed with inner light. A beam of energy, almost invisible except for a slight distortion in the space it passed through, shot toward the Nix ship. When it hit, there was no explosion, no fire. Instead, the Nix ship's shields began to glow brighter and brighter. The glow spread across the hull, pulsing like a heartbeat. Then, suddenly, the shields collapsed inward. The pressure crushed the front of the Nix ship, crumpling it like paper. Secondary explosions rippled through the vessel as its own energy systems overloaded. Direct hit! Gregory shouted, disbelief in his voice. Their ship is breaking apart. The bridge crew watched in amazement as the mighty alien vessel split in 2, debris flying outward in a slowly expanding cloud. How? Daniel began. The resonance. Cannon doesn't attack their hull, Samuel explained quickly. It creates a feedback loop in their shields. Their own energy becomes the weapon. Incoming transmission from the Defiant, Olivia reported. The face of a young officer appeared on screen. His uniform was torn and emergency lights flashed behind him. USS Underdog, this is Acting Captain Ryan Peterson of the Defiant. Our captain is dead. Most senior officers too. What just happened? How did you destroy that ship? No time to explain. Defiant, Abigail replied. Can your engines get you back to Earth? Barely. We're at 30% power at best. Then go, now. Warn Earth about the Nix attack. Tell them the diplomatic mission was a trap. Peterson nodded. What about you? Abigail looked at her crew, seeing determination in their eyes. We're going to buy you time. The transmission ended. The Defiant slowly turned and limped away, heading for Earth. The other Nix ships are changing course, Gregory reported. 3 are pursuing the Defiant. 2 are still coming for us. Abigail stood up. How long until the resonance cannon recharges? 2 more minutes, Samuel replied. But our shields are down to 64% and dropping. We need to hold them off. Abigail turned to Olivia. Evasive maneuvers. Make it hard for them to get a lock on us. The underdog began to move in an unpredictable pattern, diving and turning in ways that should have been impossible for a ship its size. The 2 Nix vessels followed, firing continuously. Shields at 51%, Samuel reported as another hit rocked the ship. We can't take much more of this. 1 minute to recharge, Gregory added. Daniel looked up from his console. Captain, the 3 Nix ships chasing the Defiant have stopped. They're turning back. Abigail frowned. Why would they? New contacts, Olivia shouted. 7 more Nix ships just appeared from behind the moon. The situation had just gone from bad to worse. The main Nix fleet had arrived. The resonance cannon can't handle that many, Samuel said quietly. Abigail took a deep breath. It doesn't have to. It just needs to handle enough of them to let the Defiant escape. She sat back in her chair, mind racing. Samuel, forget the resonance cannon. We need something else. The Nix ships all communicate with each other, right? Samuel nodded. Constantly, short encrypted bursts. Can we use that? Send something through. Their communication channels? The chief engineer's eyes widened. Maybe. Their systems are advanced but still follow basic principles. If we could create a data surge through their network, like a virus? Daniel asked. More like an overload, Samuel said, already moving to his engineering station. We'd have to get very close to one of their ships, though. Abigail looked at the tactical display. The 7 new Nix ships were advancing in perfect formation. Behind them, Earth was a blue dot in the distance. If those ships reached her home planet, billions would die. How close do you need to get? She asked. Practically touching, Samuel replied. We'd have to drop our shields for a few seconds to create the connection. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Could we survive those few seconds? Abigail asked finally. Samuel hesitated. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe. If we time it perfectly. Gregory spoke up. The resonance cannon is recharged. We could take out one ship, then immediately move to another for this data attack. Abigail nodded. That's our plan then. We hit one ship with the cannon, then immediately move to a second ship and attempt the data surge. She looked at each of her crew members. I won't lie to you. The odds aren't good. If anyone wants to take an escape pod now, I won't think less of you. No one moved. Daniel smiled slightly. Where would we go, Captain? If Earth falls, nowhere is safe. Besides, Olivia added, no one would believe we did any of this anyway. Samuel looked up from his work. The data surge package is ready. I've set it to transmit through their command protocols. If it works, it should spread to every ship in their network. And if it works, what will it do? Abigail asked. Best case? Temporarily shut down their shields and weapons. Worst case? Nothing at all. Abigail straightened her uniform. Then let's hope for the best case. Olivia, set course for the lead Nix ship. Full speed. The underdog turned and accelerated toward the approaching alien fleet. On the bridge, the crew prepared for what might be their final mission. One way or another, Abigail said quietly, they won't forget the underdog after today. The USS Underdog raced toward the Nix fleet. The small human ship looked like a moth flying toward a flame. Behind it, the damaged Defiant was slowly moving away, carrying Earth's last warning. 1 minute to weapons range, Olivia announced. Her voice was steady despite the danger. Abigail studied the tactical display. 7 new Nix ships had joined the 2 that were already chasing them. 9 against 1. The odds were terrible. Samuel, is there any way to boost the resonance cannons?
Power?
She asked. The chief engineer frowned. I could redirect power from life support systems. It's risky, but might give us a 20% increase. Do it. We won't need life support if we fail. Samuel nodded and began working at his console. The lights dimmed further as he redirected the ship's power. 30 seconds to target, Gregory said. The lead Nix ship is charging weapons. Daniel looked up from communications. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Nix. They want us to surrender. Abigail laughed. Now they want to talk? Tell them we'll consider it after they leave our solar system. The Nix ships fired together. Multiple energy beams crossed space toward the underdog. Evasive maneuvers, Abigail ordered. Olivia's hands flew across her controls. The underdog twisted and turned, avoiding most of the beams. But 3 still hit, making the ship shake violently. Shields, at 37%, Samuel reported. 1 more volley like that and we're done. Target locked on the lead ship, Gregory announced. Fire the resonance cannon. Once again, the front of the underdog transformed, revealing the crystalline weapon. The nearly invisible beam shot out, hitting the lead Nix ship directly. This time, the effect was even more dramatic. The Nix shields glowed brilliantly, then collapsed with such force that the entire front half of the alien vessel crumpled inward. A series of explosions tore through it, leaving nothing but floating debris. Direct hit, Gregory shouted. Their lead ship is destroyed. There was no time to celebrate. Olivia, take us directly to the next ship as close as you can get. The underdog shot forward, passing through the debris field of the destroyed Nix vessel. The remaining 8 alien ships seemed momentarily confused, their perfect formation breaking as they adjusted to the loss of their leader. They're recalibrating their weapons, Daniel warned. Trying to find a frequency our shields can't adapt to. Shields at 29% and falling, Samuel added. The resonance cannon is offline for at least another minute. The underdog approached the closest Nix ship. The alien vessel was massive compared to the human ship, its weapons already turning to target them. How close do we need to be for the data surge? Abigail asked. Almost touching, Samuel replied, and we'll need to drop shields for at least 5 seconds to establish the connection. 5 seconds with no shields against Nix weapons. It seemed impossible. Abigail made a decision. We need a distraction. Gregory, arm 2 torpedoes and target their weapons array. Torpedoes armed. Olivia, on my mark, take us in a curved approach. I want their sensors confused about our trajectory. Ready, Captain. Abigail took a deep breath. Fire torpedoes. 2 torpedoes shot from the underdog toward the Nix ship. At Ni. The same moment, Olivia changed course, sending the human vessel in a tight spiral. The Nix ship fired at the torpedoes, destroying one, but the second hit its target, exploding against the alien's weapons array. The damage was minimal, but it created a brief moment of confusion. Now, Olivia, take us in. The underdog dove straight toward the Nix ship, closing the distance in seconds. The alien vessel tried to turn away, but it was too slow. Alongside, their command section, Samuel called out. Ready for data surge. Drop shields and transmit, Abigail ordered. The underdog's shields vanished. For 5 terrifying seconds, the small ship was completely vulnerable. The nearby Nix vessels immediately fired, their beams racing toward the defenseless human ship. Samuel's fingers flew across his console. Transmitting data surge package. Connection established. Uploading now. The first energy beam from a Nix ship was about to hit when Samuel shouted, Done, shields up. The shields came back online just as the beam struck. The bridge shook violently. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship. Shields at 12%, Samuel reported. 1 more hit and they're gone. Did it work? Abigail asked. The data surge? Samuel checked his readings. I don't know yet. The package is spreading through their network, but he was interrupted by Gregory. Captain, look. On the main screen, they could see the Nix ship they had just targeted. Its lights were flickering. Its weapons suddenly powered down. Then, one by one, the other Nix ships began showing the same symptoms. It's working, Samuel exclaimed. "The surge is overloading their control systems." "What exactly is happening to them?" Daniel asked. "Their ships use a shared control system," Samuel explained. "Our data surge is creating conflicting commands, making their ships fight against themselves." Abigail watched as the Nyx vessels drifted, their weapons and shields powering on and off randomly. Some began to spin slowly, unable to maintain their position. "How long will this last?" she asked. Samuel shook his head. "Minutes, maybe less. Their systems will reset eventually." "Then we need to use this time." Abigail turned to Gregory. "Is the resonance cannon back online?" "Yes, Captain. Recharged and ready." "Target the nearest disabled ship and fire." The resonance cannon fired again. This time, with the Nyx ship's shields fluctuating, the effect was devastating. The alien vessel didn't just crumple, it exploded in a massive fireball. "Again," Abigail ordered. "Target the next ship." One by one, the underdog fired on the disabled Nyx vessels. Without stable shields, they had no defense against the resonance weapon. In less than 2 minutes, 4 more Nyx ships were destroyed. 3 remaining, Gregory reported. "But I think they're starting to recover. Their systems are stabilizing." Samuel looked up from his console. "Captain, we have a problem. The resonance cannon is overheating. One more shot and it might burn out completely." Abigail considered their options. 3 Nyx ships remained, and they would soon regain full control. The underdog's shields were almost gone. The resonance cannon could fire only once more. "We need to make it count," she said. "Olivia, position us so that the 3 remaining ships are as close to each other as possible." "You want to hit all 3 with one shot?" Samuel asked, surprised. "Is it possible?" The chief engineer thought for a moment. "Maybe. If they're close enough, the resonance effect could cascade from one ship to the next, but it's never been tried." "Well, today is a day for firsts." Abigail turned to the helm. "Olivia, make it happen." The underdog moved carefully, positioning itself as the 3 Nyx ships struggled to regain control. Their movements were becoming more coordinated. Time was running out. "They're as close as they're going to get," Olivia reported. Gregory aimed the weapon. Resonance cannon locked on the center ship. Abigail hesitated. This was their last shot. If it failed, Earth would have only the warning carried by the Defiant to prepare for the Nyx invasion. "Fire," she ordered. The resonance cannon fired one last time. The beam hit the center Nyx ship just as it was raising its shields. The effect began as before, a growing glow spreading across the shields. But this time, as the first ship's shields collapsed, the energy jumped to the second ship, then the third. Like dominoes falling, all 3 Nyx vessels were caught in the cascading resonance effect. Their shields imploded, crushing their hulls. Secondary explosions tore them apart from within. In moments, the space around the underdog was filled with nothing but debris. "All Nyx ships destroyed," Gregory reported, his voice filled with disbelief. "Die." Bridge crew sat in stunned silence. They had done the impossible. Then the ship shuddered. Alarm bells rang out. "The resonance cannon has burned out," Samuel reported, "and we've got multiple system failures. The strain was too much." "Can we make it back to Earth?" Abigail asked. Samuel checked his readings. "Yes, but it won't be pretty. We've got enough power for life support and basic propulsion. That's about it." Abigail nodded. "Then let's go home. We've got quite a story to tell." As the damaged underdog turned toward Earth, its crew finally allowed themselves to smile. The old ship that no one had taken seriously had just saved humanity. 3 days after the battle, the USS Underdog limped toward Earth. The ship moved slowly, its engines barely working. Parts of its hull were blackened from weapon hits. The once hidden resonance cannon was now exposed, its crystalline structure burned out and dark. On the bridge, Captain Abigail Wright sat quietly in her chair. The crew looked tired but proud. They had barely slept since the battle, working in shifts to keep the damaged systems running. "Earth Defense Fleet approaching," Olivia announced. 6 battleships in formation, Abigail nodded. "Open a channel." The main screen lit up showing Admiral Jackson, the head of Earth Space Forces. His face was serious. "USS Underdog, this is Admiral Jackson. We've heard an incredible story from the Defiant. They claim you single-handedly destroyed 9 NICs, warships. That's correct, Admiral, Abigail replied simply. The Admiral's expression showed disbelief. Captain Wright, with all due respect, that's impossible. The Underdog is an outdated patrol vessel. It doesn't have the capabilities to— Permission to interrupt, sir, Abigail said. I suggest you scan our ship. You'll find some interesting modifications. There was a pause as the Earth fleet scanned the Underdog. Abigail could imagine their surprise as they discovered the advanced technology hidden within the old ship's battered hull. What am I looking at, Captain? The Admiral finally asked, his voice quieter. These readings don't match any known Earth technology. Samuel Ellis stepped forward. Because it isn't known technology, sir. I developed most of it myself over the past 5 years. You developed it? Without authorization? Without oversight? With all due respect, Admiral, Abigail said, no one was paying attention to the Underdog. No one cared what we did as long as we stayed out of the way. The Admiral was speechless for a moment. Then he straightened. Captain Wright, Chief Engineer Ellis, your entire crew, Earth owes you a debt we can never repay. The Defiant brought us footage of the battle. If the Nix fleet had reached Earth, they would have destroyed us, Abigail finished. That was their plan all along. I've ordered a full honor escort for your return, the Admiral said. There will be medals for everyone aboard. Thank you, sir. But what we really need is a repair. Doc, the Underdog took heavy damage. The best dock is already being prepared. We'll have you fixed up in no time. After the transmission ended, Daniel turned to Abigail. So we're heroes now? Looks that way, she replied with a small smile. What happens next? Olivia asked. Will they take the ship away from us? Study all of Samuel's inventions? Samuel snorted. Let them try. Half the systems are designed to only work with my personal override codes. I don't think they'll separate us, Abigail said. They need us too badly now. The Nix won't give up after one defeat. Gregory looked up from his console. You think they'll be back? I know they will. That was just their first wave. There will be more. The Earth fleet surrounded the Underdog, forming a protective escort. Together they approached the massive space dock orbiting the planet. Thousands of small ships flew alongside them. News crews, civilian craft, even private shuttles. Everyone wanted to see the miracle ship that had saved Earth. I never thought I'd see the day, Daniel said, looking at the view screen. People are actually excited to see the Underdog. Abigail watched the approaching space dock. Things changed quickly. 1 week later, Abigail stood in a large conference room at Earth Defense Headquarters. The room was filled with military officers, government officials, and scientists. On a large screen at the front, detailed diagrams of the Underdog systems were displayed. Samuel Ellis was explaining the adaptive shielding technology to the awestruck audience. The key breakthrough was realizing that shield harmonics could be adjusted in real time to match incoming weapon frequencies. A scientist raised his hand. But the power requirements for such a system would be enormous. That's where the modified reactor core comes in, Samuel replied. By using a nested containment field, we were able to triple the energy output without increasing radiation. Abigail listened with pride. For years, Samuel's ideas had been ignored or dismissed as impossible. Now, everyone wanted to know how he had done the impossible. Admiral Jackson stood next to Abigail. We're implementing these designs fleet-wide, he said quietly. Every ship will have adaptive shielding within 6 months. And the resonance cannon? That's more complicated. Ellis says it requires special materials that are hard to produce in large quantities, but we'll figure it out. Abigail nodded. You'll need to. The Nix will adapt too. Next time, they'll be ready for us. Speaking of next time, the Admiral said, I have something to show you. He led Abigail to a separate room where a large holographic display showed a ship design. It looked similar to the Underdog, but larger, sleeker, and obviously built with Samuel's technology from the ground up. The USS Phoenix, Admiral Jackson explained. The first of our new Defender class, and it's yours. If you want it. Abigail studied the design. It's impressive, but what about the underdog? Ellis convinced us to keep it in service. We're repairing it now, with all his specifications. It will be a training vessel, teaching other engineers how the systems work. And my crew. They go where you go, Captain, that's non-negotiable. We learned our lesson about breaking up effective teams. Abigail smiled. After years of being overlooked, her crew was finally getting the recognition they deserved. 3 months later, Abigail stood on the bridge of the newly repaired underdog. The ship looked almost the same from the outside. The Admiralty had decided to keep its unimpressive appearance. But inside, everything was new and improved. Samuel had overseen every detail of the repairs, adding even more hidden capabilities. The resonance cannon had been rebuilt and a backup system installed. The adaptive shields were stronger than ever. Final system check complete, Samuel reported. Everything is functioning perfectly. Abigail looked around at her crew, Daniel, Olivia, Gregory, and Samuel. They had been through so much together. The Phoenix will be ready in 2 weeks, she told them. Admiral Jackson wants us to take command as soon as she's launched. A new ship, Daniel said. Hard to imagine after all these years on the underdog. We'll still have the underdog too, Samuel reminded him. I'll be splitting my time between both ships training the new engineers. Gregory looked up from tactical. Long-range sensors are detecting something at the edge of the solar system. Multiple objects approaching at high speed. Abigail's expression hardened. The Nix. Most likely. They're still too far for detailed scans, but the pattern matches. Their ships. How many? At least 20. Maybe more. The bridge fell silent. Even with all their new technology, 20 Nix ships would be a formidable challenge. Alert Earth defense, Abigail ordered. Tell them we need every ship ready. What about us? Olivia asked. We're still supposed to be on a test run. Abigail settled into her captain's chair. Test's over. The underdog is going to war again. As the ship turned to face the approaching threat, Abigail felt a strange calm. The first time they had faced the Nix, they had been alone and unprepared. This time, Earth was ready. This time, they knew what they were fighting for. Take us out, Olivia, she ordered. Maximum speed. The USS Underdog, the ship that no one had taken seriously until it saved the world, headed once more into battle, leading Earth's fleet against the stars. Lieutenant Jack Miller rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the monitor. The night shift at Earth Defense Force headquarters was usually quiet. He sipped his coffee and ran another routine scan of the outer solar system. The screen beeped. Jack blinked, thinking it was a glitch. He ran the scan again. This can't be right, he muttered. The scan showed hundreds of objects appearing near Neptune's orbit. They weren't there 5 minutes ago. Jack's hands moved quickly across the keyboard, confirming the readings with other satellite systems. Control, this is Lieutenant Miller at Monitoring Station 6. I'm detecting multiple large objects that just appeared at the edge of the system, requesting verification. The response came back almost immediately. We see them too, Lieutenant. Stay at your post. Command is being notified. Within 30 minutes, Earth Defense Force headquarters was fully awake. Admiral Susan Phillips marched into the command center, her face grim. The large display screen showed the objects more clearly now. They were ships, hundreds of them, arranged in perfect formation. What do we know, she demanded. Colonel Frank Ward handed her a datapad. They appeared approximately 40 minutes ago. No warning, no warp signatures, they just materialized. Configuration matches nothing in our database, but the design appears reptilian. Size estimates put the largest at over 3 miles long. Susan scrolled through the data. Movement? They're advancing toward Earth at a steady pace. At current speed, they'll reach our orbit in about 46 hours. She looked up at the screen. Have they responded to our hails? Nothing yet, Admiral. Susan turned to her communications officer. Keep broadcasting on all frequencies. I want to know who they are and what they want. News of the alien fleet spread quickly. The Earth Alliance Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from all nations gathered in the underground chamber beneath Geneva. The room buzzed with worried voices. President Harris called the meeting to order. Ladies and gentlemen, we face an unprecedented situation. Admiral Phillips, please brief the council. Susan stepped to the podium. At 22:17 hours Universal Time, we detected a large fleet of unknown origin at the edge of our solar system. We estimate between 500 and 600 vessels of various sizes. They are currently approaching Earth and will reach our orbit in less than 2 days. All attempts at communication have failed so far. The room erupted with questions. Susan raised her hand for silence. Our analysts believe these ships are warships based on their configuration. They appear to have weapons systems unlike anything we've seen before. I must be honest. If their intentions are hostile, our current defense capabilities will not be sufficient. The Russian representative stood. What about the Jupiter defense platform? It's not ready, Susan replied. At best, it might take down a few of their smaller ships. The council debated for hours. Some wanted to launch a preemptive strike. Others argued for continuing peaceful attempts at contact. In the end, they agreed to prepare for both possibilities. As the council meeting ended, Susan's communicator buzzed. Admiral, they're broadcasting. She rushed back to headquarters. On the main screen, an alien face appeared. It had green-gray, scales, yellow slitted eyes, and a jaw filled with sharp teeth. When it spoke, its voice was deep and harsh, though the translation software made it understandable. People of Earth. I am Commander Zexithar of the Draconian Imperial Fleet. Our scans have detected unusual energy patterns from your planet that are of great interest to the Empire. You will surrender unconditionally within 48 Earth hours. Resistance is futile and will result in your destruction. We await your response. The transmission ended. The command center was silent. Susan finally spoke. Well, at least we know what they want. What do we do now? Colonel Ward asked. We buy time. Tell them we're considering their offer but need to discuss terms. Meanwhile, deploy all available ships and prepare civilian evacuation protocols. Thousands of miles away beneath the Nevada desert, Dr. Alan Wright received an encrypted message on his private terminal. His eyes widened as he read it. He immediately called his assistant. Nancy, activate Protocol Omega. Call the team, it's happening. Deep in the underground facility known as Umbra Base, Alan entered his security code and walked into a room few people knew existed. Inside was a circular device, about 20 feet across, with strange symbols carved into its metallic surface. It had been found 20 years ago in Antarctica, buried under ancient ice. Alan touched the cool metal, feeling it hum slightly under his fingers. For 2 decades, he and his team had studied this device. They understood only a small part of its capabilities, but they knew it was built by an ancient race called the Predecessors, and it was meant to be used against the very enemy now in Earth's skies. His phone rang. It was a secure line connected directly to the Earth Alliance Council. Dr. Wright, this is President Harris. Is it true? Can Project Umbra help us? Alan took a deep breath. Possibly, sir. The technology is only partially understood. We've never activated it at full power. The risks are significant. Greater than the risk of alien conquest? That's a fair point. I'll need Dr. Lisa Martinez and her team. We've been preparing for this scenario, but honestly, we hoped it would never come. You'll have whatever you need. A transport is already on its way to bring you to the council. We need options, Doctor. Alan ended the call and looked again at the ancient device. He remembered the day they found it, how excited they had been to discover proof of alien life. Now that alien life was at Earth's doorstep, demanding surrender. The facility door opened, and Dr. Lisa Martinez walked in. Her eyes were serious but determined. I just got the alert. Is it time? Alan nodded. The Draconians are here, just like the record said they might come someday. Lisa walked to a console and began typing. The power systems are ready. We've been running simulations for years. Simulations are one thing. Actually using this technology, Alan shook his head. We don't fully understand what it will do. According to the predecessor records, it created a quantum displacement field. It shifted the draconian ships into another dimension. And then the predecessors vanished from the galaxy, Alan reminded her. We never discovered why. Lisa looked up from her console. Well, in about 48 hours we might find out. Above them in space, the draconian fleet continued its approach. Earth's small defense force prepared for a battle they couldn't win, and humanity's fate rested on an ancient alien device that no one fully understood. The countdown to either surrender or activation had begun. The helicopter landed on the frozen Antarctic plain. 20 years ago, Alan Wright had been a young scientist full of dreams. Now, as he remembered that day, he could still feel the biting cold and the excitement that had filled his chest. We've found something, Dr. Olivia Martinez had told him over the radio. You need to see this now. Alan had rushed across the ice to the dig site. The team had been studying unusual energy readings beneath the ice for months. That morning, they had finally broken through to a hollow space 2 miles down. Now, in the present day, Alan explained these events to Admiral Phillips and General Kevin Barnes in a secure meeting room beneath Geneva. The Earth Alliance Council listened with growing amazement. At first we thought it was just a cave, Alan said. But it was a perfectly round chamber. The walls were made of a metal we couldn't identify. And there were machines still operating after who knows how many millions of years. Lisa Martinez continued where her mother's work had left off. She tapped on her tablet and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed a circular device with strange symbols carved into its surface. This is what we found. We call it the displacement engine. The predecessors built it as a defense against the Draconian Empire. President Harris leaned forward. The same Draconians who are currently heading toward Earth? Alan nodded. Yes. According to the records we found, the predecessors fought a war with the Draconians millions of years ago. This technology was their final solution. How does it work? General Barnes asked. Lisa touched the hologram, which zoomed in on the strange symbols. It creates a quantum displacement field. In simple terms, it shifts matter from our dimension into a parallel one. The predecessors used it against the Draconian fleet once before. And it worked? Admiral Phillips asked. Their fleet vanished, Alan said, but soon after the predecessors themselves disappeared from the galaxy. We don't know if they were attacked again or if they left voluntarily. Their records don't explain. The room was quiet as everyone considered this information. Finally, President Harris spoke. Can we use this technology now? Lisa nodded slowly. Maybe. We've spent 20 years studying it. We relocated the device to Umbra Base in Nevada and built systems to power it. But we've never activated it at full capacity. What are the risks? Admiral Phillips asked. Alan looked grim. We don't fully understand all aspects of the technology. There could be side effects. The power requirements are enormous. And most concerning, we don't know why the predecessors vanished after using it. But if it works, the Draconian fleet would disappear? General Barnes asked. That's what the records suggest, Lisa said. President Harris stood up. The Draconians have given us less than 35 hours before they expect our surrender. Dr. Wright, Dr. Martinez, you have my authorization to prepare this displacement engine. General Barnes, provide them with whatever security and resources they need. The meeting ended and Alan pulled Lisa aside. We should tell them everything. Lisa checked that no one was listening. We can't. You know what the other records showed. The truth about the predecessors and their connection to humans would cause panic. But if we activate the device without full disclosure, one problem at a time, Lisa said firmly. First, we save Earth. Then we deal with the consequences. Back at Umbra Base in Nevada, a team of scientists worked frantically to prepare the ancient device. The circular room hummed with energy as computers monitored the system. Lisa checked the power feeds while Alan studied the symbols on the device one more time. Power distribution nodes are online worldwide, a technician reported. Paris, Tokyo, Cape Town, Sydney, Rio, and Anchorage all confirm ready status. Lisa nodded. Begin power-up sequence. 10 10% capacity. The device began to glow with a soft blue light. The symbols seemed to shift and move, though Alan knew this was just an optical illusion caused by the energy field. Holding stable at 10%, the technician said. 20%, Lisa ordered. Outside, in 6 locations around the world, massive power stations diverted energy toward the hidden project. In Paris, the city lights dimmed briefly. In Tokyo, a power substation hummed loudly as current flowed through special conduits buried deep underground. In orbit, satellites detected unusual energy patterns. On the Draconian command ship, Commander Zexithar received reports of the strange readings. "What is this energy the humans are generating?" he demanded. His science officer studied the data. "Unknown, Commander. It appears to be building in strength and connecting to points around their planet." Zexithar's eyes narrowed. "Could it be a weapon?" "Possibly. The energy signature has similarities to ancient void technology," the commander hissed in surprise. "Impossible. The ancients were eliminated millions of cycles ago. How could these primitives possess such technology?" "Unknown, Commander." Zexithar stood from his command chair. "Accelerate our approach. We will not give them time to deploy whatever this is. Prepare assault ships. We attack in 6 hours." Back on Earth, Admiral Phillips received the alarming news. The Draconian fleet has increased speed. They'll reach Earth in 6 hours, not 35. President Harris's face was grim on the video screen. "They must have detected our power-up. Dr. Wright, how soon can the device be ready?" Alan checked, with Lisa, who was monitoring the systems. "We're at 30% power now. We need at least 5 hours to reach full capacity safely." "You have 4 hours," the president said. "Admiral Phillips, deploy our defense fleet. Buy them time." Around the Earth, military ships launched into space. They were small compared to the Draconian vessels, but they took up defensive positions around the planet. In Nevada, the underground facility shook slightly as the device powered up further. 40%, Lisa announced. "The field is starting to form." Alan watched the monitors with concern. Energy feedback is higher than expected. The power grid in Eastern Europe just went offline. "Reroute through the Atlantic undersea cables," Lisa ordered. "Strange readings coming from the device," another scientist called out. "The symbols are changing." Alan rushed to the device. The ancient markings were indeed shifting, rearranging into new patterns. "This didn't happen in any of our tests." "We never went above 20% before," Lisa reminded him. Outside, strange phenomena began occurring worldwide. Auroras appeared. In the sky over the equator, visible even in daylight, electronic devices malfunctioned. Animals grew agitated, and in space, the Draconian fleet grew closer by the minute. The first shots of the war were about to be fired, while beneath the Nevada desert, humanity's secret weapon powered up, its true nature and consequences still not fully understood. The sky above Earth filled with light as the first Draconian fighters entered the atmosphere. Earth's defense ships engaged them, blue energy beams crossing paths with the green weapons fire of the alien vessels. People looked up in fear as the battle raged overhead. Admiral Phillips stood in the command center watching the holographic display of Earth's defenses slowly failing. Her ships were fighting bravely, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. "Status report," she demanded. "Colonel," Ward's voice was tight with stress. "We've lost 15% of our fleet. The Tokyo defense grid is down. Draconian dropships have been spotted over North America and Asia." Phillips turned to her communications officer. "Get me Dr. Wright." The screen switched to show Alan's face. Behind him, the ancient device hummed with power, the blue glow now much brighter. "Admiral, we're at 65% power," Alan reported. "The system is stable, but we need more time." "We don't have it," Phillips replied grimly. "Draconian, ground forces have landed near your location. General Barnes is sending a special forces team to protect the facility, but they might not reach you in time." Lisa appeared beside Alan on the screen. "We can't stop now. If we power down, the energy feedback could destroy half the continent." "Then, keep going," Phillips ordered. We'll buy you as much time as we can. The screen went dark as an explosion rocked the command center. Emergency lights flashed on. Draconian bombers have broken through, someone shouted. They've hit Geneva headquarters. In space, Captain Diane Foster of the Earthship Defiant maneuvered through the chaos of battle. Her ship was one of Earth's newest vessels, but it was tiny compared to the Draconian warships. Target the lead cruiser's weapon systems, she ordered her crew. Maybe we can slow them down. The Defiant fired, scoring a direct hit on a Draconian vessel. For a moment, the alien ship's weapons went dark. Then they came back online with doubled intensity. Evasive action, Diane shouted as green energy beams lanced toward them. The ship rocked violently as one beam struck their engines. Captain, we've lost propulsion, her navigator reported. Diane looked at her tactical display. They were drifting directly toward a critical power relay satellite, one of 6 that connected to the displacement engine in Nevada. They're targeting the satellite, her tactical officer warned. Diane made a quick decision. Divert all remaining power to shields. Position us between the satellite and their weapons. Her crew looked at her with understanding. This was a one-way order. It's been an honor serving with you all, Diane said quietly. The Defiant drifted into position, its shields glowing as they absorbed blast after blast meant for the satellite. On the command deck, systems failed around them as the ship slowly broke apart. Communication still online, Captain, her officer reported. We're being hailed by Admiral Phillips. Diane straightened her uniform and accepted the call. Admiral, we've protected the relay satellite, but the Defiant is lost. We won't survive another minute. Phillips's face showed both pride and sorrow. Your sacrifice won't be forgotten, Captain. Diane nodded. Tell Dr. Wright and his team to make it count. As the connection ended, the Defiant's shields finally collapsed. The ship broke apart in a brilliant explosion, but the satellite remained intact, still channeling power to Earth's last hope. In Nevada, the underground facility shook as Draconian weapons struck the ground above them. Dust fell from the ceiling as the scientists worked frantically to complete the power-up process. 75%, Lisa called out. Energy feedback is increasing. We're losing power nodes in Asia and Europe. Alan studied the symbols on the device, which were now moving constantly, rearranging themselves into new patterns. The field is starting to form. I can feel it. A loud explosion rocked the facility. The main door to the chamber dented inward as something powerful struck. It from the other side. They're here, a security officer warned, raising his weapon toward the door. Major Ryan Cooper and his Special Forces team had arrived just in time, taking positions around the chamber. We'll hold them off as long as we can. Just get that thing working. The door dented again, metal screaming as it began to tear. Outside, Ryan's team could hear the hissing language of the Draconians as they prepared another assault. 80% power, Lisa announced. Her hands flew over the controls, redirecting power from failing nodes. The field is expanding, but it's unstable. The door burst open. A Draconian soldier stood there, 7 feet tall, with green-gray scales and yellow eyes. It fired its weapon, and one of the security team fell. Ryan and his soldiers returned fire, forcing the alien back temporarily. More incoming, Ryan shouted. We can't hold them long. 90%, Lisa called out. Just a few more minutes, Alan watched in amazement as the air around the device began to shimmer. The blue glow had expanded to fill the entire chamber. The symbols on the device were spinning now, almost too fast to see. Something's happening, he said. This is different from our simulations. The fighting intensified at the door. 2 more of Ryan's team went down. Draconian soldiers pushed forward, their alien weapons firing into the chamber. One beam struck, a power conduit sending sparks showering across the room. System damage, the technician shouted. Power fluctuating. Lisa frantically adjusted controls. Holding at 95%, we're so close. Ryan took a hit to his shoulder but kept firing. Whatever you're doing, do it now. We're out of time. Alan looked at Lisa. They had studied this device for 20 years, but they had never been certain what would happen when they fully activated it. Now there was no choice. Do it, Alan said. Lisa pressed her hand against the final control. 100% power. Displacement field. Active. The device in the center of the room pulsed once, twice, and then released a blinding wave of blue-white light. It expanded outward at impossible speed, passing through walls, through people, through everything. Ryan watched in awe as the light passed through the draconian soldiers. For a brief second, they seemed to flicker like bad television reception. Then the light expanded beyond the facility, beyond Nevada, spreading across the entire planet and out into space. And then, everything went silent. Ryan Cooper opened his eyes slowly. The room was dark except for emergency lights. His shoulder hurt where the draconian weapon had struck him. He sat up carefully and looked around. The other soldiers were stirring too. The draconians who had been attacking them were gone. "Status report," he called out to his team. "Anyone badly hurt?" As his team checked on each other, Ryan made his way to the center of the chamber. The ancient device still stood there, but the blue glow had faded. Dr. Wright was helping Lisa to her feet. All the computer screens were dark. "Did it work?" Ryan asked. Alan nodded slowly. "I think so. We need to get topside and check communications." The power was out in the entire facility. They made their way up the emergency stairs to the surface. Outside, the Nevada desert looked peaceful under the afternoon sun. There was no sign of the draconian ships that had been bombing them minutes before. Ryan's radio crackled to life. "Cooper, this is command. Do you read?" "This is Cooper. We're alive. The device was activated. What's the situation?" There was a pause before the answer came. "The draconian fleet is gone. All of it. Just vanished." Alan and Lisa exchanged looks of amazement. It had worked better than they had dared to hope. Back at what remained of Earth Defense Headquarters, Admiral Phillips surveyed the damage. Screens were slowly coming back online as emergency power systems kicked in. Reports were flooding in from around the world. "Satellite imagery confirms complete disappearance of all draconian vessels," Colonel Ward reported. "Over 500 ships just gone in an instant." "Casualties?" Phillips asked. "Still coming in. We lost about 40% of our space fleet. Ground casualties are relatively light given the scale of the attack. They didn't have time to deploy their main ground forces." The door opened, and President Harris entered with several council members. They looked tired but relieved. "It worked," the president said. "Dr. Wright's team did it." Phillips nodded. "Yes, sir, but at a cost. Global power grids are down, communications are spotty at best, and the technology itself appears to have burned out." "A small price to pay for survival," Harris replied. "What about the draconians? Where did they go?" "We don't know, sir. They just disappeared. Across the world, people emerged from shelters to find the alien threat gone. The skies were clear again. But strange reports began coming in from different locations. People described seeing what they called shadow people during the event, human-like figures that seemed to watch the chaos before vanishing with the light. A week later, Alan and Lisa returned to Umbra Base. Power had been restored to the facility, though much of the specialized equipment was still damaged. They examined the ancient device, which now sat cold and silent in the center of the Euro chamber. "It's completely drained," Lisa said, checking her instruments. "Whatever power source the predecessors used, we've used it all up." Alan was studying the symbols on the device's surface. "Look at this. The patterns have changed." Lisa joined him. The strange markings had indeed rearranged themselves into a new configuration. "Can you read any of it?" After 20 years studying the artifacts, Alan had learned to understand some of the predecessor language. He traced the symbols with his finger. "It's a message," he said slowly. "Or maybe a warning." "What does it say?" Alan's face grew serious. "The bridge is open. The way is clear. The lost shall return." Lisa frowned. "What does that mean?" Before Alan could answer, one of their technicians rushed into the room. "Doctors, you need to see this. We're picking up quantum echoes from the UA displacement field." They followed him to a working console. The screen showed energy patterns that pulsed and shifted. "These readings suggest the draconians weren't destroyed," the technician explained. "They were displaced, just as the ancient records said. But We're detecting something else too. Lisa studied the readings. These energy signatures, they match the predecessor technology, but they're coming from the other side of the displacement. Alan's eyes widened as understanding dawned. The predecessors didn't vanish. They used this technology on themselves. They escaped to another dimension to avoid the Draconians. And we just sent the entire Draconian fleet to the same place, Lisa whispered. Alan nodded. The ancient war is still being fought, just in another reality, and we just sent reinforcements to their enemy. At that moment, all the instruments in the room spiked simultaneously. For a brief second, the air in the center of the chamber seemed to shimmer, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Then it was gone. What was that? Lisa asked. Alan checked the readings. A phase shift. For a moment, something from the other dimension partially appeared here. Could the Draconians be trying to come back? I don't think so, Alan said. The readings don't match Draconian technology. This was something else. Over the next few days, similar phase shifts were reported worldwide. Objects from the other dimension briefly appeared, only to vanish seconds later. Radio operators picked up strange transmissions in unknown languages. People around the world reported identical dreams of vast cities with impossible architecture. A month after the event, Alan was called to a secure meeting with Admiral Phillips and President Harris. The public is getting restless, Harris said. These phase shifts are occurring more frequently. People want answers. We're working on it, Alan assured them. But there's something else you should know. We've translated more of the predecessor records from Antarctica. And? Phillips prompted. The predecessors didn't just build the displacement technology as a weapon. It was meant to be a bridge between dimensions. I believe they've been waiting in the other dimension, building a civilization there. And now they know we're here. Are they a threat? Harris asked. I don't think so, Alan replied. Based on their records, they viewed Earth with great interest. In fact, there's evidence they may have influenced human evolution millions of years ago. You're saying they created us? Phillips asked incredulously. Not created. Guided. As a contingency plan. If the Draconians ever returned, humans would serve as the key to reactivating the displacement technology. The room fell silent as they considered the implications. So what happens now? President Harris finally asked. Alan looked out the window at the night sky. Now we wait. The bridge between dimensions is open, and I believe the predecessors are preparing to make contact. 6 months passed since the day the Draconian fleet vanished. Earth had begun to recover. Cities rebuilt what was damaged in the brief but intense attack. Power grids were restored. Life returned to normal in many ways, but everyone knew the world had changed forever. The Earth Alliance kept most of the truth classified. The public was told only that a new defensive technology had successfully repelled the invasion. Most people accepted this explanation, grateful that the alien threat was gone. But the strange phenomena continued. The phase shifts became more common. Objects from the other dimension would briefly appear in our world. Strange plants, odd machines, sometimes even glimpses of buildings that weren't there. They would flicker into existence for a few seconds, then vanish. Scientists around the world studied these events. No one could explain them better than Alan Wright and Lisa Martinez, though even they had more questions than answers. On a cold morning in Antarctica, Alan and Lisa returned to where it all began. The original excavation site had been reopened. They descended through layers of ancient ice to the chamber where the first predecessor artifacts had been found 20 years ago. It feels different now, Lisa said as they entered the round room. The walls still gleamed with the strange metal that didn't exist on Earth. Alan nodded. After everything we've learned, everything that's happened, they had brought new scanning equipment with them. Lisa set it up in the center of the chamber and activated it. Blue light played across the walls as the scanner searched for hidden compartments or mechanisms. Nothing yet, she reported. Just the same readings we got years ago. Alan walked slowly around the perimeter of the room, his hand trailing along the wall. He stopped suddenly. There's a change here. The metal feels warmer. Lisa joined him, bringing her scanner. You're right. There's an energy signature building behind this section. As they watched, the wall began to glow faintly. The light formed patterns, the same symbols that had been on the displacement engine. It's responding to our presence, Alan whispered. The symbols pulsed once, twice, and then a section of the wall simply vanished. Behind it was a smaller chamber they had never seen before. Inside, a pedestal stood in the center with a crystal-like object floating above it. How did we miss this before? Lisa wondered aloud. I don't think it was here, Alan replied. Or at least it wasn't accessible from our dimension. They stepped cautiously into the hidden room. As they approached the pedestal, the crystal began to spin. Light burst from it, forming a holographic image in the air. The figure was humanoid, but clearly not human. Its body was taller and more slender, its head slightly larger, its eyes huge and luminous. Greetings, children of Earth, the figure said in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. I am Guardian Sentinel of the Predecessor Council. We have waited long for this moment. Alan and Lisa stood in stunned silence. Finally, Alan found his voice. You're really here? You've been watching us? The holographic figure nodded. From across the dimensional barrier, yes. We have observed your world since we departed this reality millions of years ago. Why did you leave? Lisa asked. The war with the Draconians could not be won in this dimension. Our numbers were too few, our resources depleted. We chose to use the displacement technology to create a new home in a parallel reality. Alan stepped forward. And we just sent the Draconian fleet to your dimension. I'm sorry. The figure made a gesture that might have been a dismissal. Do not be concerned. We were prepared for their arrival. They are contained and no longer pose a threat to either of our civilizations. But the phase shifts, Lisa said. Things from your world are appearing in ours. Yes. The activation of the displacement field has weakened the barriers between our dimensions. This was always part of our design. Alan frowned. Your design? The holographic guardian nodded. You did not discover our outpost by accident. We guided your species to this moment across millions of years. The records we found suggested you influenced human evolution, Lisa said. We did more than influence it. We helped create it. No, Guardian's voice was gentle but firm. When we knew we had to leave this dimension, we seeded the potential for intelligence in your planet's early primates. We left behind the technology that would one day reconnect our worlds. Why? Alan asked. Why not just leave completely? Because this is our home too, the Guardian replied. We always intended to return when it was safe. You are, in many ways, our children. Different, evolved in your own unique direction, but still connected to us. Lisa looked at Alan, then back at the hologram. What happens now? The barriers between our worlds will continue to thin. Soon our civilizations will be able to connect fully. We offer you a choice. The hologram changed, showing two possible futures. In one, Earth remained isolated, dealing with increasing instability as the dimensions overlapped unpredictably. In the other, a controlled merger occurred, with humans and predecessors sharing knowledge and technology. You may choose to strengthen the barriers keeping our worlds separate, or you may choose to join with us, becoming part of a greater community across dimensions. That's a choice for all humanity, not just us, Alan said. Of course, the Guardian agreed. We will give you time to consult with your leaders. But know this, the Draconians were not the only threat in the galaxy. There are others who would destroy young civilizations like yours. Together, we would be stronger. The hologram faded, but the crystal remained, now pulsing with a steady light. Back on Earth, world leaders debated the Guardian's offer. Some feared contact with the predecessors would mean the end of human independence. Others saw incredible opportunities for advancement. As they argued, the phase shifts increased. In Nevada, near the site of the old Umbra base, Lisa stood watching as the air shimmered and pulsed. For brief moments, she could see a magnificent city occupying the same space as the desert. buildings of impossible beauty, technology beyond imagination. Two realities, occupying the same space, separated by a barrier growing thinner by the day. Alan joined her, looking at the ghostly city appearing and disappearing. Amazing, isn't it? Our ancestors. Our future, maybe. Lisa nodded. Humanity's true heritage. We never were alone in the universe. We just forgot who we really were. The sun set over the desert, and as darkness fell, the lights of the predecessor city shone more brightly through the dimensional veil. A new chapter in human history was beginning, one that would take them beyond Earth, beyond their dimension, into a cosmic destiny none could have imagined.